Today is day 3 of helping you ace your chemistry final, and I'm going to go over when to use an ICE table or when to use an ICF table. Let's quickly go over the difference because some instructors like to use an ICE table for everything, but they change E to end, which I think makes things confusing. So an ICE table is when you have initial change in equilibrium, and an ICF table is when you have initial change in final. Now you're going to use an ICE table when you have an equilibrium type problem. So when you have a general equilibrium problem, you have an acid dissociation problem that's a weak acid, or you have a weak base protonation or weak base reacting with water equation. An ICF table you're going to use whenever a reaction goes to completion. So this is going to be titration, disrupted buffer, so when you're adding an acid or a base to a buffer solution. So this question right here, we would be using an ICE table. So we're finding the pH of a 0.15 molar solution of ammonia. And so ammonia is a weak base, so this would be an ICE table. An indicator that you would be using an ICE table is that it has a double arrow here, so you can see that it's an equilibrium problem. And also it's not reacting with anything but water. So generally when you have something reacting with water, that's when you're using an ICE table. Here's another example of when you would be using an ICE table. This is a general equilibrium problem. So you have partial pressures of gases and you are trying to find out when or what the values would be at equilibrium. So this would be an ICE table or an ICE table. Another example of an ICE table is when you have a weak acid dissociation problem like this one. You can also see you've got those double arrows there, so that's going to be an ICE table. Another example of an ICE table is whenever you are doing the hydrolysis of a salt. So whenever you have a salt solution, you would be using an ICE table as well. An example of when you would be using an ICF table or initial change final is whenever you are doing a titration problem. So you're titrating an acid with a base or vice versa. And then another example of when you would be using an ICF table is whenever you have a buffer solution and you're adding a strong acid or a strong base to it. That reaction is going to go to completion, so that's an ICF table. So in summary, I'm going to make myself small here so you can take a screenshot, but an ICE table, you're going to be using that with equilibrium questions, weak acid dissociation, weak base plus water, pH of a salt. And for ICF table, you're going to be using it for acid-base reactions, disrupted buffers, and any reaction that goes to completion.